So you're right. So his comments were he's on pause path, on the pause path. I think for me, the market has already anticipated that. To me, the biggest comment that he made was that they will wait until inflation comes significantly lower before even thinking about lowering rates. So I think the market, this is where the mispriced market is for me, and why I remain bearish on the equity markets, is that the market has this understanding that as soon as he pauses, that's one step away from cutting rates. And I don't think that's the case. And again, Jerome Powell has said this till he's blue in the face, that he doesn't want to repeat the mistakes of Paul Volcker in the 80s, right? So to me, rates are not going down unless, like he said, unless we get inflation back in the bag. That's 2%. And I don't see that happening for at least a year or two even.
Bitcoin was recently trading at $26,362, down about 3.1% over the past 24 hours. The largest cryptocurrency by market capitalization had been hovering in a narrow range before dipping below its recent $26,500 support early Wednesday. Markets have been roiled by an ongoing debt ceiling stalemate and inflationary and crypto regulatory concerns. Federal Open Market Committee minutes showing a difference of opinion among U.S. central bankers about further rate hikes did little, if anything, to soothe markets crypto or otherwise. Hello and welcome to Money Talks. In today's video, Gareth Soloway shared with us his prediction for Bitcoin and crypto for 2023, and when we will see an all-time high again in Bitcoin.
So I think a default would be a positive, at least a near-term positive for Bitcoin, right? It would be just like when the banks began to fail and we saw Bitcoin really rocket to the upside. My issue with Bitcoin is that even when we had issues with some of the regionals where they were dropping 50% like 2 weeks ago, Bitcoin actually came down. And to me, that tells me Bitcoin doesn't know what it is yet. Is it a digital gold? Is it a risk asset? And so I'm in the camp that I think Bitcoin topped out at 30,500 recently, and I actually think we are going to head lower. I'm still in the camp that we're probably not making, we haven't made the bottom in Bitcoin yet.
You've previously said that you do see Bitcoin dropping to 12 or 13,000, and if it drops through that support line, then it could go as low as 9,000
Yep.
in 2023.
Yeah, so 2023, maybe into 2024, the 9,000 one. But I do think by year end, it's very possible we could see 12 to 13, or at least double bottom at 15.7.
What would take Bitcoin then?
That's going to be risk. It's going to be risk adjustment, meaning that de-risking in the system. Bitcoin is going through this crazy period where people are just gambling on these coins. And I've said this before, but I've never seen
other coins.
Yeah, on the other coins. But it's all the psychology of it, right? It's when people feel like they can gamble and they can just sell it to someone else higher, and they know deep down there's no utility. That is not a sign of a bottom in a market like a Bitcoin bull market. It's a sign of a top. And so now if you expand that out and say, okay, Bitcoin is still a risk asset, well, what if the stock market does start to tumble? Where does Bitcoin go? And that's my thesis, is that we will hit a recession. The market doesn't think that the Fed won't come to the rescue. The market and investors are conditioned for now 10, 15 years. Every time there's a hiccup, the Fed prints money. I don't think they do it this time. And that is going to be a shock. It's going to revalue the stock market 20, 30% lower from here, and that will take Bitcoin back down.
While some analysts believe Bitcoin could see inflow in the event that the United States defaults on its debt, there is a significant risk that the U.S. Treasury will run out of funds, straining liquidity. To date, crypto prices are still highly correlated with the Dow and S&P 500, and most major banks still expect the U.S. to experience a sharp recession at some point in 2023. According to U.S. Bank analysis, which incorporates more than 1,000 data points, investor sentiment about the current state of the economy remains low. According to a U.S. bank analysis, our U.S. health check is at levels consistent with historical recessions as the Federal Reserve continues tightening monetary policy to combat elevated inflation.
So on our way down, there's a huge level around 23 to 24,000. If that breaks, you're headed to the 15,700 level, which is your double bottom. And then if that breaks, your next stopping point would be 12 to 13. So I'm very much a trader in that I look at the levels on the charts. And if one level breaks, if support breaks, the likely target is your next support line.
And if 12 breaks 9?
Yeah, and to me, 9 is a very intriguing number because the 10,000 will be max pain, and the markets. There's something about the markets and the psychology of the markets that it makes it so that the market wants to flush the most people out possible. And to me, where would that be? If you ever saw Bitcoin break 10, people would finally panic and throw up. Everyone says, "Oh, I'd buy 1,000,000 in, Bitcoin or whatever." That's nonsense. Panic would set in, and that's usually where bottoms are made.
But you're a long-term believer in Bitcoin, so you would be buying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm such a contrarian that I want to see, like, I start buying when panic. They say blood in the streets. That's the term.
Yeah.
When you see that, that's when you step up. Vice versa, when you see the gambling that's going on right now and the crazy moves in some of the stocks and cryptos, that's why I start to nibble on the short side. So for me, gold was due for a pullback. It hit that high from both 2022 and 2020, and that's known as a triple top in technical trading. And so you expect a pullback off of that. But for me, triple tops actually are the beginning stages of the next big breakout. And so I'm looking at this pullback in gold as a buying opportunity. And I do think within probably weeks, we could take out that high of around 2075 on gold. And I still have that year-end price target of 2,300.
Despite the capital acquisition and debt management challenges high interest rates are causing banks, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell seems committed to reducing inflation through further hikes. After Powell's Federal Open Markets Committee, FOMC, speech on May 4th, the market seemed to confidently believe that the Fed would pause rate hikes. CME's FedWatch tool shows an increasing possibility that a rate hike still may happen. The 34% that believe a new interesting rate hike is incoming is up from 28% on May 17th. Some Bitcoin analysts believe 2 more rate hikes will happen, creating immense volatility.
Yeah, so it is back to the stagflation narrative, and I think that's the most likely near-term outlook over the next 6 to 12 months. We have a Fed that, again, likely won't be cutting rates to stimulate growth. They've already said that there'll be a mild recession. Again, just like you mentioned, with him saying transitory, look at what we got. So I have very little confidence in the Fed that they actually know what the economy is going to ultimately do. And it puts us into a situation where inflation stays elevated. And I think people have to understand that you had 2 parts to inflation. We had the supply chain part, which has been solved. We're not really in that issue anymore, but we still have the higher wages. Wages jumped tremendously since COVID. And that's going to be an inflationary pressure that's going to keep inflation above, in my opinion, just above 3% for at least a year. So the way I trade, and again, I'm a shorter term trader, but the way I look at it is you have things that have been beaten down to probably levels where it's a little overbeaten. And so if we just get some sort of relief rally, which is very likely in the banking sector, if things calm down a little bit, I think money flow heads back into them. And likewise, I'm actually short big cap tech. You've seen stocks like NVIDIA, AMD, Tesla start to rip higher again, Microsoft. All these stocks are starting to behave like they were in 2021. And for me, that's a red flag. Just like when I see Pepe in the crypto markets and all these meme coins running crazy, to me, that's not investing, that's gambling. And gambling was a precursor to 1999, 2000 collapse, 2007, except maybe that was in the housing market, but it was still gambling with flipping. People, like regular people, were flipping homes and they thought that was the easiest money to be made. What happened? We had the collapse and the financial crisis. And so in 2021, we saw that again, and it led to the 2022 declines, and now we're starting to see it again. And so for me, these are flashing warning signs where I start taking advantage on the short side of some of these mega cap tech plays that have gone up way too much, looking for some sort of retrace.
So, when we will see Bitcoin break the 30K level? Tell us in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon with the next video. Thank you so much for watching.